Good morning and welcome to Cheche, the show where opinion counts, live on Citizen TV. I'm your host, Udwaka Mimo. Leaders from the opposition and Western Kenya are an angry lot. They're upset about a deal President Uhuru Kenyatta signed allowing sugar imports from Uganda. It's a controversial issue because sugar production, not just in the west of the country, but other parts, is ailing. Adding his voice to the controversy is Musalia Mudavadi, who's the chairman of the Amani National Congress. He's our guest today, and we have the panel of David Makali and Mutegi Njau with us. Good morning, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
You can clarify this for me later when we come to talk about the Amani National Congress. But what is your perspective on this sugar row?
Thank you. At least I'm happy to be here again on this one. And let me put it this way. I don't think I want to add my voice to the controversy per se, but perhaps it may provide a good forum for us to look at this thing more objectively, away from the political emotions that have clouded the debate. Sugar is definitely an important cash crop in this country for many years now. And we have had a very good run as a country. But of course now there are changes because technology has changed, varieties have changed, a lot of circumstances have changed. And therefore the profitability level to the sugarcane farmer has definitely changed. And I'm sure we'll be going through a lot of this detail. But what is clear is that it's not about what deal has been signed. I think as we discuss, it should become clear that we are members of the East African community. We did sign a treaty to create the East African community. We are also then tasked within the framework of the treaty to create the protocol for the customs union, the protocol for the common market, and eventually the protocol for the monetary union. That is, if you are building towards the federation. So far, the East African community members have dealt with the treaty and have dealt with the customs union, and they have dealt with the protocol on the common market. What is left is the monetary union. So as we discuss this, we then need to ask ourselves, if there was an agreement that was signed, because up to this day we still are not clear whether there was any additional document signed. But if there was, does it fall within the framework of these protocols? If it does, then maybe we're making noise for no reason. But if it does not fall within the framework, then there's cause for concern. And then we would want to understand what is it that is outside the purview of this framework.
Under the existing frameworks that you've outlined, what would be the normal situation with regard to sugar? Because the argument has been that there's nothing new. Sugar is supposed to be crossing the border anyway. So is that the state of things as per the existing treaties?
Yes, it is. This framework provides for that. In fact, if time allows, I'll try and highlight some of these specific articles. But the broad thing is that we are supposed to have free movement of goods, free movement of services, free movement of labor. All these are within the framework of these agreements that I'm talking about. Now, if that happens, then within the framework there is also the regime. What kind of, what should be the parameters for taxation? What should be the parameters for ensuring that there's fair trade amongst the partner states for all these products or commodities or services? That is the critical aspect. Now, where the controversy seems to be coming from is that there's an impression that has been created that perhaps there is something that has been executed that is outside this arrangement. And to me, if there's nothing to worry about, the government should not be worried in making whatever discussion they had public.
Is the controversy that an arrangement was made outside the existing treaties, or that because sugar is such a controversial issue because it's ailing in Kenya, that the government should have had the foresight to look after the interests of its people and, you know, perhaps protect that area while allowing trade to continue with other areas that are not so controversial?
I think the government has, I don't speak for the government, let me make this very clear, but if we just go to the sugar, the government has been seeking extension for protecting sugar from the COMESA arrangement. So this is not new. They have had extensions time and again in order to give a lifeline to the sugar industry in Kenya to allow it to become more competitive and to also accelerate the privatization process. So this has been happening over time. Now, so if it is a question of protectionism, then that has been brought out before. I think what is suspicious is that people think that perhaps the agreement, if there was one that has been executed, did provide some, has conferred some benefit to some specific organizations or entities outside the framework of the treaty. I think that is where the clarity needs to come. If that is cleared, really, I do not see why anybody should be worried about imports.
Of course, I know you're speaking from experience, having been there when some of these protocols were entered into and your service in the government. What kind of protections, really, let's shed some clarity around that, exist on the matter of sugar, and why would there be alarm bells ringing over this particular matter? What is the status quo, or as the lawyers would say, status ante? Before this announcement, what happened? What was the position?
I think, frankly speaking, the only protection that there is today on the sugar is the duty. It is the duty that sugar draws.
Duty and the quantities that are going to be imported.
Yes, what would be the quotas that sometimes can be imported, based on the production level and the deficit. But the key protection to the industry is the duty levels.
So then the question then, I think, which is causing problems is that there will not be a limit on the importation. There will be no guide based on deficit, but that sugar will cross the border regardless. And that's why farmers and Western politicians are up in arms, that it has opened their factories to sugar that could come in, which might be cheaper than what might be produced locally.
There is that, but the background to that also is that the sugar might not necessarily be Ugandan.
Precisely. Yeah. Now, I think the whole issue on this is now hinged on the principle of the rules of origin. The whole controversy boils down to that, because what it means is that if Uganda, and you have the statistics, we have all read them, they produce the 465,000 tons and they consume the 320,000 metric tons annually. So they have a surplus of perhaps 200. No, about 140 or something surplus. Now, what could be informing this sudden interest in the Kenyan market? It's the price differential. Okay, because there are other markets. Rwanda is there, Burundi is there, there's the Southern Sudan, although there's chaos, because Uganda can also export to those countries. But why is the Kenyan market attractive? It's attractive because of the pricing level.
Yeah, because it is a fact that production in Kenya, its factory price, is more expensive than anywhere else in the world.
So the shelf price, or the price of the sugar, is more attractive here than it is in those other possible markets. That's why there's an urge to have Kenya attract that attention. But let me.
But isn't part of what Mutegi's intervention, isn't part of the problem that Kenya doesn't have the capacity to meet its own demand?
True.
And whatever they produce is more expensive than anywhere else.
Yes, Kenya's production level is at about 650,000 metric tons. They consume at about 850,000 metric tons. So there's always a deficit. And then in addition to that, we don't produce industrial sugar. In fact, no country in the region produces industrial sugar. This is the one that goes into making Coca-Cola and so forth. Now, that again provides the window for imports. Now, the catch that the issue that we have to deal with is that what measures is the government of Kenya jointly with the government of Uganda announcing to the public that they will be able to deal with the challenges on the issues of the rules of origin? Can they assure us that there will be no pilferage? Can they assure
there was
us?
supposed to be a committee that was supposed to look at that.
Yes, within the framework, even within the management of the customs union, you find that there is provision to allow for joint management of trade in aspects of customs and so forth. Now, the question is that what has been set up publicly to ensure that I, as Musalia Mudavadi, will not get my sugar from Brazil and have it transit to Uganda, or even divert it into the local market, but create a package from Kakira sugar factory and have it on our shelves. So this is what the government needs to come out and assure us on. If they can assure people on that, then they'll be able to convince us that there is fair trade. I don't think the government should be afraid of bringing out this reality. I think the element of the communication on this particular issue is an issue that somebody somewhere seems to have panicked when issues were raised, and therefore is wondering whether to come out or not. But can I just go a little bit further before you do this, because this might be helpful in engaging the debate. There is the treaty which we signed as a country, and this was signed in 1999, and I'll tell you that the signatories to this was Benjamin Mkapa. The signatures are there. We had Daniel Arap Moi, and we had President Kaguta Museveni. So they signed this, and in this particular document, I would like Kenyans to, because it's accessible and it's a public document, and I must admit that the businessmen in Uganda and Tanzania have really been focusing on this, using it. There's something that has been happening in Kenya that we have not been using this document to further our cause. Now, Article 74 and 75, which is part of Chapter 11, deals with the whole aspect of liberalization and the trade regime where the sugar falls. And it specifies what is expected, what should be done, and in terms of duties, what should be done. So,
for the benefit of viewers, what does it say? What is it actually allowing and disallowing?
Okay. It establishes the customs union, okay? And it says the customs union, details of which shall be contained in a protocol, shall entirely include the following. Then it brings out the issue of the rules of origin. I don't want to list all of them.
Yes, yes.
And then the issue of anti-dumping. The issue of subsidies and countervailing duties. You know, just to highlight three aspects of this. Now, in addition to that, there's a section that says, with effect from the date to be determined by the Council, the partner states shall not impose any new duties and taxes or increase existing ones in respect of products traded within the community, and shall transmit to the Secretariat all information on any tariffs for study by the relevant institutions of the community. Now, I want to also flag something else, because it has been coming out in the debates. There's out of Article 75, there's sub-Article 6, which also says the partner states shall refrain from enacting legislation or applying administrative measures which directly or indirectly discriminate against the same or like products of other partner states.
Okay. And to put that into context, President Kenyatta did say in defending the sugar deal, which we're not quite sure that happened because we're getting mixed signals from the executive, he did say that he'd rather import from a neighboring country than from Brazil or elsewhere. And he pointed out the balance of trade, that Uganda imports more from Kenya than it exports to us. And so that reflects the agreements that you're pointing out. But then you come back to Kenya, and from what you're saying, you seem to be suggesting that this whole sugar row is a storm in a teacup.
What I'm trying to say is that sugar is important, and what would be critical is that the debate around the sugar should be managed carefully, because there are many knowledgeable Kenyans in this country, and it is sad that we are simply turning it into a mudslinging match.
Is it being politicized?
Yes, it's being politicized.
People are taking advantage of it.
They are taking advantage of it. Here is a patient in a sick bed, and maybe the people who have medicine in their hands are busy insulting each other without realizing that it's time to treat this.
But in whose court would you lay the blame? I mean, the announcement came out, the details have not followed.
This is.
I mean, really, what is it that is on the table that cannot be spoken?
Precisely. That is the only thing. The only thing that I'm trying to, which I support you on, is that can the government be clear that if there was a pact, was it outside this framework or wasn't it? Because if it is within this framework, really, then there's nothing to worry about. Unless now somebody can say that here is a document that is outside this. By the way, these treaties are public.
Mr. Mudavadi,
so any framework that anything we execute,
any agreement actually under the Constitution should be public.
Mr. Mudavadi, you're a leader, you originate from the west of the country. Have you been able to pick up the phone and call President Kenyatta or any of his secretaries, cabinet secretaries, to ask for clarification on what happened? Because this, of course, is going down very badly in Western Kenya.
Yes, it is going down very badly, that's a fact. But I have made a statement on this thing. Have
you sought clarification?
That I will do. And I'm hoping that even by speaking here, I'll be helping, not just speaking for myself, but speaking for other Kenyans, that the clarification would help, and it would then diffuse any further controversy on this issue, and then help us to focus on what would be serious solutions to help the sugar industry. I want to point out a few other things, that in all this documentation, the fact still remains that any framework, any document that is signed has got to be made public. We have to move away from the past. Even our constitutional requirement, section 153 of the Constitution, is very clear that the executive, through the relevant cabinet secretary, shall make available to Parliament full disclosure, open and full disclosure of any ongoings, and which would include treaties or pacts within their docket. Because if there was anything, then we would be happy to know the Secretary for East African Community, or the Secretary for Agriculture, or the Secretary for Finance, whoever was there, or Trade, should come out and clarify this, and the matter will be put to rest, and we move to the next level of the debate.
You know, it begs really many questions, because that treaty article you read says there can be no discriminatory agreement that runs counter to the free trade protocol. So then that means, again, there is no way that Uganda would have been granted any preferential status to bring the sugar or trade with Kenya on the sugar matter to the disadvantage of either Sudan or Zambia or Tanzania.
Precisely. That is why I agree with you that if there's anything that was preferential, then that is where the problem is.
Perhaps that's why the government doesn't want to announce anything.
But if there's nothing preferential, then there's really no basis for any further debate on the issue, but now to focus on how can we improve.
But maybe then we should get into that matter of how do we fix the crisis of sugarcane farming and the sugar factories. Those factories were on the privatization agenda, I think, in the times that you were in government. What was the idea, and how far have we gone with it?
Actually, on this one, I think I must admit that there's been perhaps a lack of seriousness or slowness in ensuring that privatization moves. In Kenya, for instance, everything is literally political, you know, in that sense. Even what is supposed to be an economic program turns out to be nothing but pure politics
and ethnicity.
Okay. Now, I was involved in the privatization of Mumias. What is the criteria for the privatization of a company, particularly if you want to go to the stock market? There is a list of what you should be able to achieve. Profitability levels maybe over a period of 5 years, unless there is exemption from the Capital Markets Authority. Then there are a lot of other issues, good management, which can be seen and so forth. Then the company can go for privatization, particularly if it is on the through the stock market. And Mumias, this is what happened. And I was at the center of the privatization of Mumias at that time, because we even then allocated preferential shares through the MOCO organization to the farmers of Mumias. And they did participate in the process. Very many of them became shareholders. Subsequently, some may have sold the shares, others maybe did not know what to do with the shares and just held them, and therefore the values declined. Yeah. But the whole purpose of having shares on a stock market is to allow you to trade in the shares, so that you take advantage of prices that are going up, and maybe you either offload them when the prices are very low, or you, if you can hold out, you hold out until the situation improves again. This happened. Now, unfortunately, in the case of Mumias, the farmer's body collapsed. MOCO collapsed. So, in reality, there's no serious farmers entity within the framework of the Mumias Sugar Company today to become the strong voice for the farmer today, as MOCO used to be.
So that's one intervention that you've seen.
That is one other. The farmers need to organize themselves, and they need to be helped to organize themselves. These kind of interventions are very, very important. But apart from that,
but the privatization is only partial. I mean, the shareholding of Mumias remained principally government and Buka and who are
the others, I think.
It's a small percentage that was being sold.
Yes, but in total now, although the government remains the largest single holder, they have about 25 or so percent. Yeah. If I'm not wrong, give or take a few percentages of Mumias, and then the rest. Either the KCB, who is a shareholder, I think Barclays Bank, I think
what are we talking about? There are only 4 government companies. All the others are private.
No,
actually more.
It's the reverse, actually.
Yeah. You see, Mumias has government shareholders, yes, but it's a private company now, because the definition of privatization of a privatized company in the context of government is that if the government still has up to about 33-point-something%, then it is still regarded as a parastatal. Hence, you would see the blue number plates on their vehicles. Now, if the shareholding has fallen below that parameter, then it is now regarded as a private company. Now, Mumias is regarded as a private company, but the government is a shareholder. But Sony is still 100% government.
Zoya?
Zoya is still 100% government. Muhoroni is still 100% government. Chemelil, the same. Now, the private ones that have come up are like the Kibos, Cabral, Butali, or the West Kenya.
Okay, we have to take a break now, but we will come back to the issue of how to revive the sugar sector. This is Cheche. We're live on Citizen TV. Today's guest is the chairman or leader of the Amani National Congress, Musalia Mudavadi, and we've been discussing the sugar controversy. Our SMS number is 22422. You can tweet us using the hashtag Cheche to ask questions or share your opinions on the issue.